Good evening, sim racing fans across the globe, and welcome to LSRTV and the kickoff for the 2016 Real Sim Racing RSR Full Throttle Cup Series season. Also simulcast on iRacing Live as we get ready to kind of wrap up Daytona Speed Weeks on the service with one of the biggest fixed setup league races of TV's sequence here during Speed Weeks, and we welcome you to the broadcast tonight. Jacob Seelman along for the ride with you, alongside me, Evan Pisoko, Justin Rosenau, and Brian Macklin, as we get set to rock and roll with a full 43-car field for tonight's running of the Daytona 250. 100 laps around this 2.5-mile behemoth that is known as the World Center of Racing. And gentlemen, we get ready to kick it off. We've got some new faces. We've got some old faces in new places. And Evan, we have got a lot of speed tonight. Warm up for this race, 205 miles per hour average. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we thought we got rid of those speeds when we came onto the most recent build, and these guys continue to prove us different. And we're going to have the same conversation tonight that we did last year at this same point, and that is that this season is going to be the most competitive we have ever seen in a real sim racing. And Daytona is always fun to get things kicked off, guys. We've been at this track for the last couple of weeks here on the sim, and this kind of draws to a close our Daytona Speed Weeks, but we embark on a brand new 2016 RSR Full Throttle Cup Series Championship. We couldn't be more stoked, and we're happy that everybody's going to be tuning in with us for tonight's SimVibe 250, because it's sure to be a barn burner.
Yeah, tonight's running the SimVibe Daytona 250. Welcoming sponsors SimVibe and Sim Experience to the RSR family here for 2016. Justin, Dwayne Vincent wins the championship in November at Homestead. He's back for more. Can he go back-to-back and start it off with a win tonight?
It very well could happen, but we all know Daytona, the plate track's very much a crapshoot at times. You have to be in the right place at the right time. You got to avoid the mid-pack melees, and from there on back, you really have to go with about, in this case, a 100-lap race. We're looking, you need to be there with about 25 to go with the drive package that we currently have. So thus, for Dwayne Vincent to make it back to the chase and then into Homestead with a shot at the...
Daytona is one of the most tricky and challenging races to win because you have so many different factors, and for these guys, they have to deal with the fact that there's a lot of new faces in this series that they didn't race with back at Homestead in November, and that's going to be one of the #1 keys. Who are you going to work with tonight? Who's going to be your friend, and who's going to give you that push to the end? You have to know who you're going to work with all night long, and you have to have a plan when you get to the end of the race. Look for the teammates to stick together, the Steel Horse Racing drivers, and just look for all the different teams to stick together tonight and really try to work together, much like you saw the Joe Gibbs Racing teammates working together yesterday during the Daytona 500. You're going to see those players work together and try to keep them in one line and hold everybody back. I look for the Steel Horse guys to be the strongest ones.
It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. And, Evan, I think the biggest thing for me is with Vincent winning the championship, but Chad Cole being so strong over the Winter Series, I look at the 8-car tonight as being the one you've got to watch. He's won this race before. He did it in 2014. He's trying to do it again. And boy, oh boy, does he have the momentum to make a run at it tonight.
Yeah, that's the fun part about doing a Winter Series, is the fact that these guys don't slow down. Not everybody competed on Monday nights throughout the winter, but other than that, there were a lot of your big competitors there, and Chad Cole definitely a name that you have to watch for to be a competitor in this Full Throttle Cup Series. So you have, again, the RSR veterans, several different champions here, and this is not going to be a walk in the park. I know we always say, Jacob, that Daytona is the biggest night on the season. Over the last 2 years, with the new chase format that we've been running with the Full Throttle Cup Series, Homestead's kind of starting to take over that spot where we're a long ways from crowning a champion. You might not win it tonight, but it would sure feel good to be the first person to cross the start-finish line.
Yeah, it would. That was Rich Jetty 1 year ago, 13th on the practice charts right now in his Umbrella Corporation number 36 machine. And you're going to get to see here in just a minute the new colors and get a chance to meet some of the drivers who will be in tonight's field. We got a new feature that we're debuting for this race here on LSRTV. It's one that the drivers of RSR helped us with over the last week to give you an interactive starting grid for tonight's Daytona 250. Before we do that, though, we're going to kick off tonight's opening ceremonies. So we're going to throw it down trackside for the national anthem and follow that with tonight's SimVibe starting grid. Let's go trackside.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
And now, here's a look at the SimVibe starting grid for the Daytona 250. Row 22.
John Abbott, Olive Branch, Mississippi. Real Sim Racing, Asphalt Assault, Chevrolet.
Row 21.
Nick Silver, Santa Maria, California. Gain, Ford Fusion.
Thomas George, Richmond, Virginia. Napa Auto Parts, Chevrolet.
Row 20.
Brendan Mercer, Mississauga, Ontario. Gary Mercer Trucking, Chevrolet.
Chris Hurlow, Leon, West Virginia. Custom Gaming Garage, Chevrolet.
Row 19.
Doug Ross, White Plains, Maryland. Hippies Paint Shop, Chevy.
Rich Jetty, North Wales, Pennsylvania. Umbrella Corporation, Chevrolet.
Row 18.
Brian Harvey, San Diego. Hippies Paint Shop, Chevy.
Joseph Heiss, Greenbrier, Arkansas. Aegis, Chevy.
Row 17.
Greg Evans, Hickory, North Carolina. Amsoil, Chevrolet.
Chad Cole, Black Earth, Wisconsin. DeWalt, Chevrolet.
Row 16.
Scott Eckridge, Waterloo, Illinois. Host Benham, Camry.
Adam Blettel, Fenton, Missouri. Amsoil, I Can't Design, Ford Fusion.
Row 15.
Kevin Linden, Virginia Beach, Lou Chevrolet.
CJ LeVere, Saranac Lake, New York. Meatball Company, Toyota.
Row 14.
Mitch Rollo, Quesnel, British Columbia, Canada. ThePitStopNews.com, Chevrolet.
Matt Lacrosse, Elwell, Michigan. Quick Car Racing Products, Chevrolet.
Row 13.
Anthony Fredericks, Novi, Michigan. AT&T Chevrolet.
Mark Bratcher, Eastman, Georgia. Real Deal Graphics, Toyota Camry.
Row 12.
Scott Simley, Fargo, North Dakota. Hippies Paint Shop, Chevrolet.
Dwayne Vincent, Lafayette, Louisiana. Abilene Ford.
Row 11.
Steve Gottschalk, Wilton, Connecticut. Master Chevrolet Sales, Chevy.
Carl Shedd, Briscoe, Texas. Aegis, Toyota.
Row 10.
Kyle Taraska, Woodbridge, New Jersey. Chick-fil-A, Chevrolet.
Daniel Eberhardt, Warner Robins, Georgia. Ipon Gaming, Toyota Camry.
Row 9.
Nelson Rivero, Westtown, New York. Verizon, Fios, Chevy SS.
David Comstock, Huntington Beach, California. Gary Mercer Trucking, Moss Energy, Chevrolet.
Row 8.
Jimmy North, St. Paul, Minnesota. Cabela's, Chevrolet.
Justin Michael, Martinsburg, West Virginia. NRA, Chevrolet.
Row 7.
Dave Washington, Port Orange, Florida. Aegis, Camry.
Stephen Marinac, Williston, Florida. Got Balls Racing, Toyota.
Row 6.
Sean Casto, Charlotte, North Carolina. Bojangles, Chevrolet.
Brett McBride, Augusta, Georgia. SimVibe, Toyota.
And now for the top 10 starters. Starting 10th.
Jonathan Cadell, Roxborough, North Carolina. GTR Simulator, Toyota.
Starting 9th.
Mike Kelly from Omaha, Nebraska. Kaziski Auto Parts, I-80 Speedway, Chevy SS.
Starting 8th.
Nick Cohan, Nazareth, Pennsylvania, K&N Toyota Camry.
Starting 7th.
Bobby Terrell, Union City, Tennessee, Got Balls Muscle Milk Chevrolet.
Starting 6th.
Dan Murray, Jacksonville, Illinois, Brant Professional Agriculture, Toyota.
Starting 5th.
Anthony DeBarra, Columbia, New Jersey, Finning Caterpillar Chevrolet.
Starting 4th.
Corbin Hemstreet, Murray, Utah, Boomtown Sim, Finning Caterpillar Chevrolet.
Starting 3rd.
Jose Gonzalez from San Juan, Puerto Rico's Meatball Company Toyota.
Starting 2nd.
Ross Cato, Atlanta, Georgia, We the People Chevrolet.
And starting from the pole for the Daytona 250.
Tim Matthews, Sayersville, Kentucky, Kentucky Wildcats Chevrolet.
That's a look at your 43 starters, presented by SimVibe, the leader in audio-based feedback software. Visit simexperience.com for more details.
And we are just about set to grid cars here tonight at Daytona. That is, again, a look at the 43 starters for tonight's SimVibe Daytona 250. A look inside the helmets, if you will, as we get set to kick things off here this evening at Daytona International Speedway. And if you're just joining us, Jacob Seelman, Evan Pasoko, Justin Rosenau, and Brian Macklin with you as we are set to rock and roll here at the World Center of Racing. Evan, let's make our beds and see what we can't do here tonight before we go green flag racing. We did this with the Pro Series, and I say this is a long enough season that it warrants a little bit of fun here for the Full Throttle Cup Series. Who you got to go to victory lane tonight in Daytona?
Well, I know that we talk about carrying momentum through the winter months, and Daytona is always the race where you can see a surprise winner, but I'm thinking that the momentum and the high of getting the championship is going to come through, and I say Dwayne Vincent's going to come to the pack and be the winner tonight at Daytona.
Wow. Okay. Justin, who you got?
I'm going to go for a repeat winner. I'm going to go with the 36er Rich Jetty. He can certainly get it done. He showed he could do it last year, and he's been a great plate racer throughout his Full Throttle Cup Series career.
Brian?
I'm going to go with the former teammate. I've raced with him for a long time. He's really good on the restrictor plate tracks. He was very hot all season long last year. He came up just short in the championship bid. I'm going with David Comstock to win this race.
Cisco Scaramuza just radioed from the trailer. The producer has the 90 of Daniel Eberhardt. I'm going to go with the guy that I think is going to win the championship and become the first repeat champion, and he's going to repeat at Daytona. Chad Cole won this race 2 years ago. I say he wins it tonight, but he is not the one starting on pole. That honor, as you heard in our SimVibe starting grid, goes to Tim Matthews, and we're going to dial up the pole sitter now on our trackside communications as he's getting ready to lead the field to the green flag. Evan, let's see if we can't dial him up real quick.
Tim Matthews, it's the LSRTV booth. You got a copy?
10-4.
You guys just now rolling off at a pit lane, and you are set. 100 laps, 250 miles, and you've got the best seat that you can. The number 54 Chevrolet starts from pole. How do you finish there after 100 laps?
Well, I believe that's the $1 million question. I don't know. It's, it feels good to start up here. Hopefully, if there's an early wreck, I'll be ahead of it. So that's one benefit, but it's a long race. We'll see what happens after 250 miles.
We'll let you get to it, but we'll touch base with you throughout the race, my friend. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
All right, we're a half lap from green, and for those of you joining us, it's going to be a long season, and we are excited and glad for all of you who are tuning in tonight on iRacing Live and LSRTV as Tim Matthews and Ross Cato, a pair of rookies. That's the first time it's happened here in RSR at Daytona, going to lead the field to the green flag. A lot of heavy hitters at the front, a lot of heavy hitters at the back, but we're glad you're along for the ride as the field is 2x2 and ready to rock and roll. We storm off the 34 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4, and we're about to find out who's going to be the first winner in Full Throttle Cup Series 2016. The American Childhood Cancer Organization Ford Mustang GT pace car going to ease its way onto pit road. The field in the hands of Tim Matthews. American Ethanol green flag goes in the air, and the 2016 RSR Full Throttle Cup Series season underway and single file among about 4 of the top 5. Tim Matthews away to the point, a quick dive to second goes Jose Gonzalez in that Meatball Company entry. The Boomtown Sim entries of Corbin Hemstreet and Anthony DeBarro hook up in the draft and trying to go to 3rd and 4th. They work onto the Daytona Super Stretch for the first time tonight, Evan, and the new season is here. I've missed this.
And we're ready, and they're getting all the way up now, just up the speed by the time they hit turn number 3. And now the top 3 breakaway single file through the top 4, even the 5 of Dan Murray, trying to get clear for the outside. And we talked about and predicted a little bit what we're going to see here tonight. We'll single file early. The only driver on the outside, inside of the top 10, is the driver that started on the outside of the front row. Ross Cato rolled off from P2. He's on the outside, and he falls back to 7th that first time by Nicholas Cohan to the inside of the racetrack. He'll pick up a spot on him. So does Mike Kelly and Rhett McBride coming through as well. So no love for the outside. These guys are just trying to get a spot in line early, and it's to the disadvantage of the number 12 Chevy.
Yeah, it is. And Justin, they single file really quickly all the way back through to Mike Kelly and now even Rhett McBride. So the top 10 goes single file by lap 2, which is kind of adverse to what I expected. Everybody wanting to settle down early instead of getting a little antsy like we were, sometimes concerned about here at Daytona.
Yeah, the top 21 cars all single file. First battle for position on the racetrack going to be for that 21st spot, Jimmy North and Steve Gottschalk going side by side. And right there, as these guys really start mixing up here towards the back of the pack, they're all trying to get what they can and get down single file. The leaders starting to break away. The top 15 cars start to open up a little bit of a draft over the rest of the cars. Call it about 12, 13, 14 cars as they enter the super stretch, sailing off towards turn number 3. Tim Matthews still with the lead, but he's got a couple of cars right on his back deck lid in tow in 3.
Yeah, and Brian, I know there's been a lot of people fussing about the setup that they've got underneath him for this race tonight. They say it falls off relatively quickly and gets tight, and I don't think it's going to stay a single file train like this, because eventually these guys are going to get tired of wanting to sit and ride behind everybody. You see Corbin Hemstreet take a peek. We go on board with the 5 of Dan Murray, who rides 5th in the Brandt Professional Agricultural Toyota. These guys, they're not going to be content to sit like this forever. And you see Boomtown starting to peek to the high lane. Hemstreet and DeBarro, they want to get a little bit of a run. Not quite close enough to do anything with it yet, but they're looking for that grip.
Yeah, this takes so much discipline to sit in line and just wait to make your move. This is the hardest thing to do as a driver, and you're seeing that with those two, with Corbin Hemstreet and Anthony DeBarro. They don't want to sit in line. They want to go up there and try to take this lead. But right now, they have a line of cars behind them, and they're going to have a very hard time making that work by themselves up there. They know they're going to need a few more cars to go with them. They're testing the waters right now. They're seeing if anybody's willing to jump up there with them, and so far that's not been the case. The tires have been very, very bad here this week for some reason, though. The tires fall off very badly after about 20 laps, and you really have a hard time staying in the gas. You're actually going to see these guys lifting through the corners to make sure their car stays on the bottom of the track. And the guys that are staying at the back that are saving their tires, watch out for them. They're going to come to the front once these tires start falling off.
The single file continues up near the front, and it goes all the way through at least the top 15 drivers. And you talked about at the back of the pack, a couple of guys work on the outside of the racetrack. First driver, top side, the number 91 of a sheet of Steve Gottschalk in 22nd. Going to get a little bit of help from the Wade Vincent, but nothing really going there. And everybody calm early. Again, well, they have somewhat of an idea of what these cars are going to do. As you see the number 14 go to the top side with the 46. They're not quite sure how they're going to act in a field of 43 cars. Your leader's playing it safe.
Yeah, Tim Matthews has led the opening 5 laps of this race. You see Corbin Hemstreet keep eking topside, trying to see if there's anything there, Brian. There's nothing there at the moment. But, he's really kind of testing the waters, I guess you'd say. And you got to plot these things out early. You want to know how cars going to react late in the race when it's time. And here, Jose Gonzalez took a peek up half a groove, nothing there.
Yeah, this is the point in the race where if you're going to take those chances and you're going to try to make something work, you want to do it now. You don't want to wait until lap 90 when you've got 10 laps to try to figure it out. You want to make that move now. That way, if it doesn't work, you have time to rebound. And that's exactly what you're seeing these guys consider doing. They're trying to look out there. You see Comstock, he's working on the outside line as well. And you see these guys up here at the front, they're thinking about it. And if they get 3 or 4 more cars that are willing to line up and go with them, I think you'll see them do that. But Comstock's actually starting to make that line move. He jumped up there and he's got Mark Bratcher in the 46th and a couple of other guys behind him. They're starting to make that outside line come, and when that happens, that's when you're going to start seeing more of these guys at the front jump up, and then we're going to have a race for this lead.
Oh, I think we're sitting, this is the calm before the storm, and Comstock is starting to make some tracks now. He's worked his way on the outside upwards the top 10, and now Nick Cohan jumps up in front of the 14. The 61 K&N Toyota moves to the top side, and Comstock splits him 3 wide down the Daytona super stretch. It's getting dicey now. David Comstock back to the lead of the outside line. DeBarro's hanging out up there. Hemstreet's looking up there. This is about to get fun, and Cohan's trying to hang Comstock out the same way he just got hung out a minute ago.
And that 14 machine came up on the racetrack again. He went up through the middle, and in that 60-foot Cohan actually looked like he had an opportunity to go through the middle and actually backed off, cut the 14 to break it. Now in front of them, jumping up to the outside lane of the racetrack and making it side by side. Inside of the top 5 goes Corbin Hemstreet, his teammate on the back bumper, the Don of Anthony DeBarro, but pusher off of turn number 2, and he'll get a nose length advantage, but not close enough to get anything brewing down the backstretch at that time. Will be 2 abreast now, 7 rows deep as the 14 drops to the inside. First battle for the race lead out of corner number 4 at lap 9.
Weren't we just talking about David Comstock being 20th a couple laps ago, and now here he is in the top 5. Battle for the lead at the start-finish line. Advantage still Tim Matthews by 9 1/1000ths of a second. Boomtown Sim to the top lane and going for the lead in 1 and 2, Brian. Corbin Hemstreet, Anthony DeBarro in those Caterpillar entries have said, all right, playtime's over. We're going to the front.
Yeah, they timed that perfectly. They waited for that outside line to form and have a few cars behind them that can help them pull that line along, and now they're out there and they've got the advantage going down the back straightaway. You see Corbin Hemstreet trying to edge ahead. He's not quite able to do it right now. He's going to need a few more cars pushing him, but he's well on his way to making this outside line work and taking that race lead. It looks like he's actually going to lead this time by when they get to the stripe. So for the first time today, we're going to have a lead change. Corbin Hemstreet to the point.
Yeah, lap 10, Hemstreet by a bump at the start-finish line, does it by 1 1/100th of a second. Why is that number familiar, those of you might ask? Well, hey, it's the exact same margin that the Daytona 500 was guided by on Sunday afternoon. Denny Hamlin winning that one. Now Corbin Hemstreet showing that he can edge one out on the top lane as well.
2 by 2 by 2, they come to the end of the super stretch off towards turn number 3. Matthews with a big push by Jose Gonzalez in the 26 on the bottom side. The Boomtown boys up top, the Finning Cat machines 2 and 4 positions on the racetrack right now, as out of turn number 4, that inside line really starting to move forward now with the 5 of Dan Murray and that Brandt Toyota second down to the high side, trying to bring along the 14 of Comstock and the rest of the gang, as most of that outside line has bailed down towards the bottom side, but is still side by side, door handle to door handle for the lead out of 2.
Yeah, 2 Toyotas and 3 Chevrolets among those front 5 making it happen, and both of the and how about back in the field now, Evan? Dwayne Vincent in 15th is the first Ford in this lead pack, and I'm a little surprised by that, to be quite honest. I expected there to be a little bit more noise by some of the guys in those Fords here tonight, and it's just not happened yet.
By the numbers, the Ford on the lower end of the car count, a lot of Chevys on track, and Dwayne pulling it right now, and you talk about him, but again, I picked him for the race win tonight, up 8 spots so far, and you couldn't go anywhere when we were single file. When we were single file, nothing was happening. Now that we get too wide, those guys back in the pack can actually try something. They can go up to the outside lane and make the moves like we saw David Comstock do, kind of hop between the top, hop between that and the bottom, and try to get some stuff done. Weren't able to do that when we were single file, so I expect to see a lot lot more of the guys mid-pack start to get going forward, but when we get too wide all the way through the field, then we kind of get stuck in this pack racing mentality. This lead draft sits 19 cars deep, and they're all tightly packed within 1.5 seconds of each other. Matthews still working the bottom of the front row. Hemstreet working the top side to 54. Once again, half a car length advantage on the bottom.
And how about the guy who's his way into the top 10 in 8th, Mark Bratcher in the 46, that Real Deal Graphics Lymphoma Awareness number 46 entry up on the top side, getting a little bit of help from Matt Lacrosse right now. Bratcher's making his return to the Full Throttle Cup Series in a great performance here in 2016 early in this race, because I didn't expect him to be a contender. You know, we don't usually see him, Evan, until late in these super speedway races, if he's not been collected, make a charge. Good run for the 46 early.
It's absolutely, we always talk about the different strategies. You'll see a lot of guys who typically like to battle for the race lead from the start, and then you have guys like Bratcher who like to hang out at the back, wait till you get into at least that final stint, if not later, depending on how the yellow flags are working to make through. But sometimes, if you're in a position, Jacob, where you say, I want to drop back, but you see an opportunity, or sometimes you can't just give that up, and you got to go for it. So you'll see a couple of guys, very rarely do they come into the race with a strategy and execute it all the way through. These super speedway races tend to make you think on your feet, and problems down the back for Matt Lacrosse. Top 10 runner into the outside wall at a turn number 2. We saw plenty of that last night, Jacob, in a 21 machine. Clipped it at a turn number 2 down the backstretch. Everybody's able to get around him, but the right side of that car scuffed up a little bit, and more importantly, Matt Lacrosse lost tons of momentum. He's well outside the top 20.
Yeah, that happens to complete lap number 15 here, as Lacrosse gonna fall all the way back to what looks to be 21st position on the back of the lead graph as it stands right now. Your top 5 with 15 laps complete: Tim Matthews, Jose Gonzalez, Corbin Hemstreet, Dan Murray, and Anthony DeBarro in a snarling lead pack. You got 13 drivers within 1 second of the top spot. And now look at Anthony DeBarro. His teammate just hung him out to dry. Hemstreet goes to the bottom and leaves Anthony way up all alone, and DeBarro going to go backwards in that Chevrolet. That's no man's land.
No man's land indeed, and then side by side for that third spot across the stripe and the edge to Corbin, but Dan Murray in the 5 Brandt Toyota bringing along the inside line up to the back bumper of Jose Gonzalez. Just the 2 cars battling inside the top 6 cars on the outside line. You got to go about another 5, 6, 7, 10 cars back. Mark Bratcher almost into the outside wall out of turn number 2, and it's getting dicey back there, fellas. The 11 at Jonathan Cadell almost really got a piece of that.
Well, I think what scared the rest of us was the contact that was nearly made between the 5 and the 69. Hemstreet and Murray were really squeezed tightly off of turn number 2, and that was dicey for a moment there, Evan. I thought they were going to be headed for the outside safer barrier, and we were going to have a big mess on our hands.
And this is exactly what we were expecting, though. Again, we're just shy of 20 laps into this run. We're at 18 laps of green flag racing since the drop of the green flag. We saw it last night. Brian had been talking about it all night long, is that the tires are starting to go away, and that's why we find ourselves back single file at the front of the field. You can go too wide. You can make those moves early. It just took these guys a little bit of time to get the courage, or maybe get the runs they needed to make the too wide. So now once we get an opportunity to battle, you got a car that's racing, you see chances, but your car's falling away. You're losing the speed, you're losing the grip, and more importantly, you're just losing the overall control on those machines. And that's why when you get too wide and you got guys pushing up 10 feet every time they're coming off the corner, you're bound to find somebody in some trouble somehow, some way. Through 19 laps and a couple of close calls, we're still green up at the front of the field, still behind Tim Matthews, who leads the way. And you see topside the number 41 of Adam Blattle. He'll lose the lead lap status in the AMSOIL Ford as that lap machine stays high.
Yeah, and Blattle's one that was talking to me earlier this week, said we're here to learn from these guys, make laps, and if we find ourselves in contention, good. Maybe if we don't, it's not all a bad day, because it's a long season, and I think that's what a lot of these rookies are going to realize, Brian. I mean, we look at the rookies that are in this field. Matthews, for one, who started on the pole and led all but 1 lap of this race so far. Got not a rookie, but a young gun in Nick Cohan, who's back for his 2nd season of action here. Mike Kelly, who won 3 truck races this winter. Ross Cato, who started on the front row. You got Dave Washington, who's got rookie status this season. Daniel Eberhardt. There's a bunch of very, very strong names tonight that I expect be contenders all the way through the season, and I've been impressed by here early on.
Yeah, you call these guys rookies, and they're rookies to real sim racing, but almost every single one of those names that you just listed, they're not rookies to the iRacing service. They run in the official series. You race against them all the time, or at least I've raced against a lot of them on a daily basis. They're not rookies. They know what they're doing. They know how to get the job done. They're just new to this series, and for a lot of them, they're going to take their time. They're going to earn the respect of the series regulars. They don't want to come in here and cause problems and cause mayhem and give themselves a bad name right off the bat. So they're going to take their time, and they're going to try to earn the respect of everybody here. That's what you're going to see these guys doing, and by racing cleanly, they're going to do just that. But rest assured, all of these drivers, they're very smart, they're very confident, and they're all very capable of being championship contenders. It's just going to be a matter of who actually is able to get the job done this year. This is one of the strongest and most competitive fields I have seen in a long time. I look through this list and I see 20 to 25 drivers realistically that could win any given week. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this season and see who wins and who comes to the front and who's a championship contender.
And I think we're watching around the 87 of Christopher Hurlow, Evan. Not sure what's going on with that machine. He's really come a long way through the field. Started 39th and up to 16th. I don't know where he's found the speed tonight, but he's by far our biggest mover of this race, and he's in the lead pack right now.
Yeah, we were talking about Dwayne Vincent picking up a couple of spots. He's since gotten 3 more, but including with that Christopher Hurlow machine, who's passed just about 23 cars. You got guys in front of him like a Mitch Rolla, who's picked up 13 for himself. So again, that 2 wide allowed these guys who know the draft to be able to do something with that. When they're single file, you're not getting anywhere. You give these guys a couple of laps, they make that kind of a gain. And if they could do that every single time you get doubled up for a few laps, of course it's going to be harder to pick up spots the more furthermore you get through the field, but those are the seasoned veterans, the guys that know the other guys. Again, we were talking about the rookie versus the rookie in the series as opposed to being overall on the sim. Again, we always talk about how the rookies are such big names. It is because we've seen them many a time, if not in official stuff on other leagues here on LSRTV. The guys that you have been with, though, for the longest time are the guys that you could race a little bit harder, and in some cases, maybe this early in the season, before you get a chance to tick them off, the guys that you can count on for maybe helping you out a little bit.
We're closing in on the 1/4 mark of this race. 24 laps complete next time by. We just put 23 up on the board. Tim Matthews has led all but one of them so far, and 4 of the top 5 starters run in the top 4 positions. Matthews leads Jose Gonzalez, Corbin Himstreet, Anthony DeBarro, and a charging David Comstock in the top 5. Then it's Bobby Terrell, Justin Michael, Rhett McBride, Stefan Marinak, Nicholas Cohan, the rest of your top 10. We're going to step away briefly here at the World Center of Racing, come back, and continue onward in the SimVibe Daytona 250. From the World Center of Racing, you're watching iRacing Live and LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. Welcome back to the Daytona International Speedway. Coverage of the season opening SimVibe Daytona 250 for the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series on LSRTV and iRacing Live. Jacob Seelman, Evan Pasoko, Justin Rosenau, Brian Macklin with you on the call as we are now 27 laps in and near chaos back in the pack, but we had a change for the lead while we were away as well, Evan. We had Corbin Hemstreet and Anthony DeBarro go to the top 2 spots around Tim Matthews, while back in the pack we had the 22 of Bobby Terrell nearly find disaster in turns 1 and 2.
And Terrell's able to hang on. We'll take a second look now at that close call here in contact with the 3. But it was a beautifully executed move by the guys running 1-2 right now to get there. Hemstreet, the 69, the Donna DeBarro, they were running 2-3, jumped out of line, and what that did was it took any pushing help away from that 54 of Tim Matthews. They hooked up on the outside of the racetrack, went right by him before that 54 could slide back to who was the 4th driver in line at that time, David Comstock. So that's how you make a second lane. That's how you execute, and it was a good move by those guys. And now that you got teammates running 1-2, they can do a lot more with defending those positions as opposed to a single car driver or having no help being in front.
Yeah, and everybody's still single file, and the tires really starting to fall off. I mean, we've seen some 1.3, 1.4 second fall off from the drop of the American Ethanol green flag as we put lap number 29 in the books. Corbin Hemstreet still out front over Anthony DeBarro, Tim Matthews, David Comstock, Jose Gonzalez, the top 5. And from there on back, the biggest mover, like we've highlighted already, Christopher Hurlow up to the 15th spot, plus 24 from where he started. Other big movers, the 23rd starter, Dwayne Vincent in the 13, the 96 Mitch Rollo, 28th to 11th, and a couple guys really making their way through the field. Comstock 17th to 4th, and he jumped up to the high lane. He's working the outside quarter panel of the 54, Tim Matthews, and he's got no drafting help up on the high side. And it's looking like it's going to be Tim Matthews drafting back to the inside of Comstock out of 4 for that 3rd spot.
Yeah, and you know, the problem here is I think David went up there, Brian, thinking that he was going to have somebody go with him, and instead he got absolutely no help. And the key here now is we see somebody going up to the top side for a minute to work with him before Terrell goes back to the bottom of the racetrack. I mean, David's one of those guys who's really good at this drafting thing, but boy, he doesn't usually have a lot of friends here.
Yeah, and you know what? Like I said earlier, this is the time of the race where you want to take those chances and you want to try to see, can I get somebody to go with me? Will somebody jump up there and make that move with me if I go? You want to figure out who your friends are now. You don't want to wait until 10 to go to decide to try to figure that out. You want to know now. That way, when you get to 10 to go, you know, okay, I've got Bobby Terrell behind me. He's going to go with me. Or, okay, I've got Jose Gonzalez behind me. He's not going to go with me. You need to know these things now and not with 10 to go. And that's why he's making these moves now. He's trying to figure out and plot and determine how he's going to make these moves at the end of the race. I like this decision. Take your chances now. If you lose 5 or 6 positions, hell, if you even lose 10 positions, it's okay. You're going to have a chance to make it back up. We have somebody in the wall back mid-pack. I'm not sure who that was, but Stefan Marinac was in the wall back mid-pack there.
Yeah, the 99 got into a spot of trouble. He was running 8th, Evan, and he's going to give up a host of spots right here. And Jose Gonzalez in the wall as well, the 26.
And both of those, the same thing we saw earlier with Matt Lacrosse, and that's guys getting just too tight off of the corner, and they can't keep them stuck down on the bottom, and now drivers headed pit side, the number 3 machine. First driver coming down, that's Justin Michael. He's joined on the pit lane by the 88 of Kyle Taraska.
Gonna be the 3 entering his pit box. That's Justin Michael, the 88 of Kyle Taraska. Overshoots his pit box, and the right side's going up on Michael's machine. 2 new tires on that side, a full tank of Snoqual race fuel being slapped in that machine. 4 tires to call on both the cars on pit road. Everybody looking like they're going to line up on pit road. Leaders look like they're coming down pit road this time by.
Yeah, Anthony DeBarro just made the call, and Tim Matthews made the call, so it looks like it's going to be the entirety of this lead pack, except Dwayne Vincent. So Vincent going to stay out as the rest of the leaders make their way to pit road here on 33.
There was a lot of contact, guys, about 3 rows back, getting onto the pit lane. The number 2, Rhett McBride, got in a little bit hot. He got into the side of Tim Matthews. A little bit of damage on both those cars.
And we'll cover
Down
the
here
leader's
on
pit
pit.
stop right there. They're going to be the 69 of Corbin Hemstreet. Right side tires on that machine. Left side's going on that machine as well. 4 tires to call for everybody. Full tank of fuel. Going to get down and away. Who's going to be the first guy off of pit road? Mitch Rollo's coming, but it will be the 69 of Corbin Hemstreet in this pack.
Well, and see, the key here is that helps elevate Rollo a little bit too, Justin, and puts maybe a third Boomtown Sim teammate up there. And how about a big lead for Corbin Hemstreet? That may be too big of a lead. He's going to have to let his teammates get back to him almost, Brian.
Yeah, they're going to have to go around him when they get to him because they're going to have a head of steam, and if they try to check up and stay behind him, they could cause a stack up that could allow several drivers to get by them. He's out there by almost a full second, maybe a little bit more, and by the time they get up to speed and catch him, they're going to be probably 10 to 15 miles an hour faster than him, so this is going to be very interesting to see how they play this out. I know they're teammates, but sometimes it's risk versus reward. If they slow down to try to stay behind him, they're going to let these guys, the 3 and the 54 of Tim Matthews, go right by them on the outside.
Watching out back as we get the 69 of Corbin Hemstreet. The storm is coming, and you see the 3 of Justin Michael blow by on the outside lane of the racetrack. We're shuffling the deck right here as Corbin and DeBarro get hooked back up. Mitch Rollo back there, the third man on that train. And this is where everything really gets shook up just a bit. Evan, Dwayne Vincent stayed out a couple of laps now. Are you surprised by that move?
We did see a lot of fall off from the start to the finish, but it's not like an intermediate racetrack over the course of a green flag run. So as that 13 machine comes off and he's completed his service, I don't think he's going to lose a ton of time. The big thing is, even if you see 2 or 3 different groups of race cars come down and all of them appear to execute perfectly, they're never going to end up on track right next to each other. You got to get in, you got to get out, you got to go. And sometimes not being with the large pack is a better advantage, but you can't not have enough help. You see Dwayne Vincent on the bottom, he's still trying to get up to speed. And meanwhile, on the outside of the racetrack, you got the likes of Tim Matthews, David Comstockle, trailing Justin Michael, Mitch Rollo, Anthony DeBarro, and Corbin Hemstreet as that pack takes well off in front of them to go back to the race lead.
And I'm not surprised by that at all. We've still got a long way to go, though. We're working to complete lap number 36 this time by, and once we cycle through at the line, we can give you a look at what's going to be the top 10 running orders. And it looks like instead of 2 Boomtown cars at the front of the field, it now becomes 3 as Mitch Rollo joins his teammates Corbin Hemstreet, who leads the party, and Anthony DeBarro, who rides second. Behind them, it's Justin Michael and Tim Matthews, the top 5. From Daytona International Speedway, we're going to step away for a moment, come back, and continue on through the SimVibe Daytona 250 right after this. You're watching live sim racing TV coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series.
Ready, aim, fire.
Welcome back to live coverage of the SimVibe Daytona 250 here on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. Corbin Hemstreet still out front in a 6-car breakaway, although right behind them, just about a second off their back bumper, there's another train of cars, 6 deep or so, going to try to gain ground on the upper 6 cars, and it's going to be 12 cars in that main pack, and from there on back, it's roughly 3 seconds back to the big pack there of about 10 cars or so. So Evan, really, nothing's really changed since we go on the commercial, but Rolo's starting to look at the eyesight. He might try to make things interesting up towards the lead.
The running order hasn't changed all that much. You have the 69 to the 9 still in front, and they're still in front of Justin and Michael. Michael has fallen to 4th. Rolo goes up to 3rd. The difference is in the groups that they came down to the pit lane, they're still about where they were, just they're spread out a lot more. The top 6 drivers in the lead draft now at lap 41. We have been clean and green since the drop of the green flag, 41 laps ago. The top 6 within half a second, they have pulled away a lot from Jonathan Cadell and company. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, you can call that a secondary pack, although they're not all together. Cadell's able to latch onto the back of the lead draft. Cohan needs to do the same. It looks like he'll be able to do so. The next big pack of cars is over 3 seconds back. That's 14th on back with Jimmy North, Sean Casco, and Kyle Tarasca and company. Those guys a little bit too far back for comfort if we continue to go green. But again, a lot of guys like the strategy of hanging back. The question is, if we continue to race like we have been, Justin, under the green flag, hanging back might bite you in the end. So they can't afford to lose another 4 seconds if we see another cycle of green flag pit stops. That would put them too far behind in order to catch them.
Yes, indeed, but we got a battle starting to shape up towards the front. Tim Matthews, David Comstock up on the high side. He's the first one to dunk on a line. Had Jonathan Cadell with him for a moment, but he's going to get hung out to dry on the outside lane. He may fall all the way to the back of this first pack here of 10 cars. Chad Cole, where does he come from, Brian? He was down around the 36th spot. Now he's running 10th after that round of pit stops.
Yeah, he got on pit road really good. He made up a lot of time on pit road, and now he's up here inside the top 10, and I just heard Jacob say in our ear, it's go time, and you see him moving to the front. He knows it's go time. We're approaching halfway. If you're going to have a shot to win this race, you need to be in the top half of the field when you get to this point of the race. You can't be in the mid-pack or towards the back and still have a chance at this point.
Yeah, Evan, this is something we're not surprised at for those who have watched the Full Throttle Cup Series over the last couple of years and really have watched it since the inception, going back to the ETV days. No, this is Chad Cole's MO. He at the front at the beginning of a race. It's always that first cycle of pit stops or about halfway through. He quietly moves his way forward, and just when you've started to forget about him, boom, he's ready to pounce. And there's a reason I picked him before this race. I think he's going to be able to make it happen, and he's going to win this race in the second half.
Another driver very similar to that is Bobby Terrell, and we've seen him have a lot of success, especially in the Icebreaker Winter Series as well in the Asphalt Assault B cars, is that you hang back and you pace yourself, and you do that week to week. Again, Daytona not exclusive at a track where you play strategy. Here, though, when we say hang back, we mean hang back. You're in a secondary pack. You're a couple of seconds away. At other tracks, hanging back might be just not charging to the front in the opening 10 laps, learning things, not using up the tires. I know when we got going in at lap 20, when we started to get crazy, Brian was whispered over the radio, they're killing the tires, they're killing the tires. That's what those guys that are patient don't do, is they hang back, they learn, and then when they cross the halfway point, then they start to take the things that they picked up on, put them to their advantage, and by the end of the race, they're better off than those guys that have been running up front because they haven't had to try out different things with the car.
Yeah, and Brian, what we're seeing here is Christopher Hurlow ducks on a line. If you're going to be towards the back of this 10-car breakaway, who's going to be the first one you think to break out and, really kind of get themselves into position? Because we still have one more pit stop to make, maybe two, depending on how far these guys are willing to push the tires. As we know, the tires very abrasive on this surface here, starting to wear out a little bit here in iRacing, so to speak, with the setup being the way that it is. But these guys really starting to get antsy. Brian, what's your take? Who's going to be the first one to break out of line there? Maybe David Comstock, maybe Chad Cole. What's your thoughts?
Well, I was actually going to say we've seen him already do it 3 or 4 times, and that's David Comstock. I think if there's going to be any one person that's going to jump up there and try to make something happen, it's going to be him. But you also see Christopher Hurlow in that 87 car trying to get up there and make something happen. He wants to get up there with his Boomtown teammates. He wants to try to get up there and make this a 1, 2, 3, 4. Right now, he's sitting back in the 8th position. they could do it, and if he gets a little bit of help, he'll jump up there and get up front, and I'm sure they'll find a way to get him clear to the bottom, whether that means trying to hold the inside lineup so he can get clear. One way or another, they'll get him up there, and if you get these 4 at the front, watch out. This is going to be a very tough battle. You're going to see a very familiar look to this race from yesterday's Daytona 500 if all 4 of these guys get lined up at the front.
Indeed, the Gibbs style racing starting to make its way prevalent here in the top series, Evan. What's your take on it, and do you think the Boomtown guys will be the ones to beat, or are we looking for a late race dash from guys like Comstock, Cole, and the rest of the gang that have yet to really pounce towards the lead?
Well, they might only have an opportunity to do it at the end, because we talk about the team aspect of things, which is huge in this series. It's big in a season opener, especially when you're at a plate track like at Daytona. If you're not up front early and you're not running up front all night long, then because of that, if you got a team dominating the front, we talked about the duo of Him Street and DeBarro, if they can get a lot more support up there with Mitch Rollo in the conversation as well, the only chance that somebody might have, if they don't have a teammate with them, is to take over this race late. Once those teammates start to spread apart, again, they'll stay with each other, whether it be until 5 to go, 2 to go, or 1 to go. At some point, they're going to try something on each other. That's the time when you have to be in the right spot to try to pounce on that opportunity.
All right, so we're closing in. We're about 2 laps from halfway, guys. So what have we learned in this first half? Man, you're the driver. I'll go to you first. What have we learned in this first half? Because I hesitate to even say it, but we still haven't had a caution flag.
I think you just jinxed it. We're probably going to see a caution. No, I think we have learned through 49 laps that the Boomtown guys are the ones to beat. They've got all 3 in the top 3. They got Christopher Hurlow back there in the 10th position, and if they can get him up front, they're going to be very hard to beat. I know Evan said at some point you're going to see the teammates racing against each other for this win, but I have to disagree. I think you'll see, especially if they're lined up 1, 2, 3, 4 at the end, I think you'll see them stick together. It's going to be interesting to see. There's not a lot of other teammates here at the front, so you're going to have to make friends. You're going to have to make teammates for the end of this race. It's going to be very interesting to see who pairs up with who and who gets that late race charge to the front.
Yeah, we are working the halfway lap right now, so when we swing back around, we will be able to give you a look at our Gary Mercer Trucking midway race break. But again, looking back through the field, the rise of Chris Hurlow, Justin, continues. I continue to marvel at that. 39th to 10th here early on tonight. He's just done an outstanding job in this race.
Yeah, not the best job in his dual race here 1 week ago, and really rebounded very well to recover. He's in the tail end of the lead draft here. He's got a shot, and let's just keep it like that. Everybody within the 4 seconds or so from the leader has a shot, but you really need to be right there, especially about now, as we just crossed the halfway marker, cross flags in the air. The field getting ready to put the second half into the books, and I really think that if you're Christopher Hurlow, you're in a good spot, but you just need to kind of be patient now, because you don't want to lose this lead draft, because it is 4 seconds back to that second pack.
Yeah, it is. And let's look at our midway race break now, presented by Gary Mercer Trucking. Your race leader, Corbin Him Street, and Anthony DeBarro, Mitch Rollo. They ride 1, 2, 3, all from Boomtown Sim. Justin Michael is 4th, and Tim Matthews, the pole sitter, rounds out the top 5. Then it's Jonathan Cadell in 6th. Nick Cohan rides 7th. David Comstock 8th. Former champ Chad Cole is 9th. And Christopher Hurlow 39th.
And just behind 11th position, going to be Bobby Terrell. Jimmy North back in 12th, and 13th running right now, Mike Kelly. Brett McBride is in 14th. He's in the middle of a little bit of side-by-side action, just about 5 seconds behind your race leaders. Still has the nose in front of Jose Gonzalez, number 26, scored in 15th. 16th right now is Scott Simley. Kyle Taraska in the middle of that as well. Number 88 machine is 17th. 18th right now, Stefan Baranak, Danbury in 19th, and 20th for Nelson Rivera.
21st goes to the 1 is Sean Casto. 13 to Dwayne Vincent, rides 22nd. 23rd to the 12 of Ross Cato. The 98 of David Washington runs 24. 25th to Joseph Thiest. Carl Shedd, 45th. 27th to the 90 of Daniel Eberhardt. The 91 of Steve Gottschalk rides 28. 29th to the 70 of Scott Eckridge. And the 00 of Anthony Fredericks rides 30th.
Brennan Mercer sits 31st. Thomas George is 32nd. Rich Jetty is 33rd. Kevin Linden 34th. Nick Silver 35th. Mark Bratcher, who made an early charge here, he's dropped all the way back to the 36th position. Brian Harvey is 37th. Greg Evans is 38th. 39th goes to CJ Lavera. And the last car on the lead lap, sitting in the 40th position, is Doug Roth. Then you have Adam Quattel and Matt Lacrosse sitting 41st and 42nd. They're both a couple of laps down.
That's a look here just past the halfway point at your Gary Mercer Trucking Midway Race Break. Visit gmercer.com for more information on North America's leader in freight services. And thanks to Brennan Mercer for all he does for RSR and helping to put this series on now for the 5th consecutive year as we work 54 of 100 laps. Corbin Himstreet, Anthony DeBarro, Mitch Rollo. Again, still your top 3. Rollo's charge impressive from 28th to 3rd right now. And since we're past halfway, we are going to step aside briefly here on LSRTV and come back for more action from Daytona International Speedway right after this from the World Center of Racing. You're watching LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
iRacing.com is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all over the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics and engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. iRacing's web-based interface allows members to compare stats and test drive any combination of car and track instantly. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 60,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsport organizations like SRO Motorsports Group to deliver virtual races based on the real-life Blancpain GT series. iRacing's Blancpain Endurance Series features team racing, giving members the ability to build a team and participate in races ranging from 3 hours to 24 hours. Additional partners include NASCAR, IMSA, V8 supercars, IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own 24 hours of Spa, Bathurst 1000, Daytona 500, and many more. iRacing.com, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car.
Welcome back to LSRTV, the voice of sim racing, getting down to the closing stages of the SimVibe Daytona 250, the season opener for the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking, Jacob Seelman, Evan Pasoko, Justin Rosenau, Brian Macklin in the broadcast booth as we close in closer and closer to the final quarter of this race. Boomtown Sim continues to ride 1, 2, 3 behind Corbin Hemstreet, the race leader. Evan, are we surprised at how this has gone so far through about 60 laps or so now?
I think based on the conversation we had at the start of the race that it's almost exactly what we were thinking. And again, the big thing is these guys started this race with 100% rubber usage basically on the racetrack. So the marbles get cleaned under the yellow, which we haven't seen yet tonight. That is why the push is such amplified here, and that's why you're seeing the leaders especially taking it easy now, because they are one pit stop away from being good to make it to the end of the race. So with that being said, no need to risk it now. Get down, get service, get out, and then go for it. However, we have been green now through 60 laps of 100. The biggest likelihood of having a caution flag comes during these green flag pit stop cycles. This is going to be an interesting next 10 to 15 laps to see how the end of this race is going to shape out. Your leaders, no problem for them. It's a 10-car pack, and they've spread out in 2 groups of 2, and you got a bunch of teammates up there. They can get things figured out. I'm interested to see what the pack 11th on back is going to do. Not a lot of team guys running together there, and they're starting to get desperate because they're only losing time to your leaders.
Yeah, Dwayne Vincent trying to work the outside of that second pack. This is all 8 seconds behind the race leaders, and it's a 10-car lead pack with 4 Boomtown Sim drivers in it, Justin. Hemstreet, DeBarro, and Rollo are the conductors, and Chris Hurlow the caboose right now with no help behind him. He said there's not a lot he can do on the tail of the train. He needs some guys to go and start working the top side, get a little bit antsy, and then maybe he can do something.
Yeah, the only thing that he's going to be able to do is to really charge the entrance to pit road, just like Mitch Rollo did the last time around for pit stops, and he's going to have to try to make something happen there. But as we see Chad Cole in the DeWalt Chevrolet, he's going to dive down, look to the inside of the 14 of David Comstock, and not going to quite get it done. But I'm hearing pit stops going to be happening here for a few cars in that second pack. Rhett McBride sticks his hand out the window and says, "I'm coming to pit road, fellas," along with the defending champion of this race, Rich Jetty in the 36.
So those guys come down to the pit lane again. That's from that secondary pack. We await to see the drivers at the front come down. Hemstreet, DeBarro, Rollo, not even thinking about it that time through. Drivers in though, Nicholas Cohan's on the pit lane, Jonathan Cadell, as well as the number 3 Justin Michael. Some of the top runners from inside of the top 10 as well coming down for service. Looks like right side tires going up, but as well as taking fuel to the end. It looks like most, if not all of the drivers down want 4 tires.
That's not surprising either, Brian, I know, because of the fact that, you know, we're seeing the fall off tonight. We're seeing almost 2 seconds worth of fall off over some of these runs, and I think we're going to see all the leaders pit here. We know, you know, we know everybody, this is the money stop right here, right now. You got to be good right here, because if you're not, you may walk yourself right out of a shot to go to victory lane.
Yeah, the entire rest of the top 7 cars came to pit road this time by. This is the money stop, like you said. No mistakes. You can't slide through your box. You can't miss any lug nuts. If you're the pit crew member, you've got to hit this perfect. You need to get out and still be part of that main pack. They have 8 seconds over that second group, so if they don't do it here, they're going to lose the draft and fall way back. You see all these guys trying to get 4 tires and fuel. Jimmy North just came in. He was in that secondary pack. He slid way through. He had to back up 3 or 4 pit boxes. But the leaders are down and away. You see them getting back out. And pretty much it looks like all 7 of them are going to come out together yet again, with Christopher Hurlow kind of trailing back a little ways. He might actually lose the draft here.
That's going to be the tough part here for Hurlow, because he didn't have a lot of help, Brian, you know, as far as the lead draft here. And you know, he was on the tail end of that, and this could be dicey right here. So we'll wait and see how it shakes out. Bobby Terrell going to be credited as the race leader of lap number 65 right now as we continue through this cycle of pit stops, and I would imagine that he's going to be coming down pit road this time or here in the very near future. So it's all shaken out. This is where you win a race, or easily, Evan, you could lose this race right now.
Yeah, we mentioned that on the first cycle of pit stops. Well, it gets overlooked a lot. You can lose or win a race on the pit lane, or at least put yourself in a position to do so very easily. And it's all about execution. You need to have the right amount of support, and you have to execute. Look at Bobby Terrell coming in for the race lead, the number 22 Chevrolet. He comes down, Jose Gonzalez down with him. Both of those drivers make it a clean entry. They're joined by Scott Simley. They did a good job of getting down. They're actually finding themselves, though, towards the end of this green flag cycle of pit stops. One driver that I saw haul in the mail trying to get around a lot of these guys, the number 3 of Justin Michael. That Chevrolet has been down. He has been serviced, and he just passed the 69 and the 9.
And it's a battle for the lead, potentially out of turn number 4 and into the trial. The 3 of Justin. Oh, trouble! One car around! Michael into the wall! Flipping! Caution on the speedway!
And that's a huge hit as the first... Oh! Christopher Hurlow got a piece of it as everybody's coming through the accident scene, and now it's all stacking up damage. I think a lot of damage to the 87 of Hurlow, and this all started back with the 3 of Justin Michael. We're going to get another look at it here in a second, but this is what can happen. You'll take a look at the replay right here. This is what we all fear, Brian, during these green flag pit cycles, something like this happening.
Yeah, this was crazy. This was intensity picking up. These guys had their last round of pit stops. They were on their tires for the end of this race, and they wanted to try to make something happen. And that was just a case where they were just racing really hard, and it almost looks like down on the bottom, the 69 might have slid up just a little bit and got into the left rear of Jonathan Cadell in the 11 machine, and that just hooked them all around. What I'm a little concerned about is all these drivers that came in late still running a pretty high rate of speed. When you see the caution flag come out, you need to slow down. Some of these guys that got caught up in this wreck shouldn't even have been involved. If they would have gotten on the binders and slowed down, they would have been fine.
Yeah, and you see the contact between the 69 and the 11, and that 69, however, made a bobble. He did push up off of that double yellow line, maybe by 2 feet, and it may have been some contact on the left rear by the 61, rather getting into his right rear, that kind of sent that 69 up the hill, and unfortunately for that 3, he just got hooked. And you want to talk about being in the right spot at the right time. How about Anthony DeBarro? Sure, his teammates just got junked up, but he's not really sitting where he would like to, but that 9 was right in the middle of that wreck. He didn't even get a piece of it.
So under caution, this is the first one of the day. We went 66 laps, green flag, and then, Brian, it all broke loose, and this is really what we didn't want to see here going into these closing stages, because now you bunch up for a restart, and oh boy, restarts at Daytona could make it really ugly real quick.
Yeah, well, now that this entire field is going to be bunched back up and have a shot at this thing again, and they're not going to have to come back down the pit road for fuel. They may come down if they get a long enough run for tires, which is amazing to even say about Daytona, but you will not see these guys coming back to the pit road for fuel. So this is essentially, you're going to the end here, and they're going to get really racy. You're going to see these guys racing 2, maybe even try some 3 wide now, and when those tires start falling off, that's when it's going to get really hairy, because they're not going to be able to afford to get single file and just ride around. They're going to have to take those chances and make those moves regardless of how bad the tires get. I don't think we've seen our only caution. I think we're going to see a few more throughout the rest of this race.
We're going to step away for a brief moment here on LSRTV and come back with more under caution for the first time in the SimVibe Daytona 250. Currently, Sean Casto, your race leader.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month with some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Welcome back to LSRTV. Trying to sort things out after a wild set of circumstances has put us under caution for the first time in the SimVibe Daytona 250. Jacob Seelman, Evan Pasoko, Brian Macklin, Justin Rosenau in the broadcast booth, Cisco Scaramuza down on the pit lane in the production trailer. Evan, this was a really good race going until 4 laps ago or so, and then it's like somebody snapped their fingers, and in one instant, absolute chaos breaks out.
And we said that if a caution's going to come out, it's probably going to come out during the cycle of pit stops. That right there, though, is not really what we meant. We were expecting, some calamity coming onto the pit lane, getting off of the pit lane, or guys that were up to speed, working around slower drivers. That's just a racing incident. That could have happened at any time throughout the race so far. So I think the big key factor in all of this is the fact that you got these guys, they were getting antsy. Again, the contact was amongst teammates. So with that being said, we were talking about how they've been working so good together. They were starting to put the pinch on each other a little bit. They had fresh tires, and with those fresh tires, what they were able to do was race a little bit harder. That could have happened at any point. Regardless of what happened, doesn't matter, because now we're going to have a restart inside of 30 laps to go. The previous 70 don't matter at all. It's a brand new start from this point on, and it's a 30-lap race. Where you are now is basically where you grid it up. You're going to have to deal with it. I don't expect us to go green, though, for the next 30 laps.
No, I don't either, Brian. What do you say now? I mean, this is about to get very, very interesting. I know that much.
Well, there's just enough laps left where if this thing does stay green, they're really going to have to fight with the tires. After about 20 laps or so, that's when the tires get really bad. So I don't expect this thing to stay green either. But if it does, it's going to be very interesting to see who takes that chance and jumps up on the outside and tries to make it work. It has not worked all race long because of the tires. It's going to be very difficult for these guys to make it work now, but they have to do something. They can't just ride single file now. With 30 laps to go, if you ride single file, you might as well just hand the checker flag to Corbin Hemstreet. You can't do that. You have to go for it. You have to take that chance, and you have to try to win the race.
By the way, Justin, did anybody notice Chad Cole is all of a sudden sitting 5th? Not to blow my horn at all.
No, not really, but I tell you what, Jack Coley certainly knows how to lurk and get it done, but how about my pick, Rich Jetty? Where did he come from? He was at the back of that second pack, and he was defending champion of this race a year ago. He's sitting there just outside the top 10. The pace car getting ready to dive to the safety of pit road. The American Childhood Cancer Association Ford Mustang pace car makes the hard left-hand turn to pit road. We get back to go underneath the American Ethanol green flag, and on the loud pedal is the 69 of Corbin Hemstreet. Gonna go up through the gearbox, and his teammate Anthony DeBarro dives down to the bottom. Front two single file, everybody too wide and multiple rows deep from there on back.
Corbin Hemstreet and Anthony DeBarro lock up and go single file 1-2. Now it's Tim Matthews with a push from David Comstock, and then behind them Chad Cole and Mike Kelly teaming up as the front 7 or 8 cars go single file. Steve Gottschalk is up in this mix in the Lenny Pond Tribute number 91 machine. Normally the Nerf sponsored entry. Gottschalk running a very special scheme tonight, was a part of the Lenny Pond crew back in the 70s, and glad to see that 91 machine, that beautiful orange and gold car up in front. The Chevrolet running about the 7th position right now and doing a fine show of it here with 73 of 100 laps complete. Anthony Fredericks in the AT&T 00 up on the high side, getting a little bit of help from defending race winner Rich Jetty. The 36 machine trying to make some moves. The Umbrella Corporation car up on the top side, but they don't have a lot of help up there. It's not going to be easy to do. Hemstreet and DeBarro down the super stretch. They're holding the bottom lane. They're holding the pretty wheel, and they're holding the field behind them.
And at 91, you were talking about, he tried to get to the outside of the racetrack. Couldn't do it, though. That 00 beat him up there. Anthony Fredericks is leading the outside charge, although not much of a charge at the moment. It's just 2. They might need one more key piece. The 14 thinks about jumping up. He'll drop back down in line again. Not normally are you the guy that goes from the outside the top 10 to the front on the outside. It's going to be somebody inside the top 5 that jumps out and pulls you through, and it is the 14 of David Comstock. He'll abandon 4th place on the bottom, jump up to lead the outside. There's still just 3 of them now. Your top 2 swing out to the outside, trying to block that lane. The 14 thinks about the bottom. He'll hang on to the outside lane for now. The outside, though, with just 3 drivers, might need a little bit more help.
Front 2 single file, 2 wide there on back. Third, 2 by 2 by 2, wheel to wheel out of turn number 4 and onto the front short chute. Gonna be Corbin Hemstreet still out front. Tim Matthews, David Comstock, all lockstep through the triangle, but the outside lane, led by Comstock, has a run down the front straightaway, trying to get around the lap car lacrosse. He's right there on the outside quarter panel. Anthony DeBarro now in 1.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting now because they got to get a little bit more help. Comstock starting to fall back as Hemstreet and DeBarro 1-2 on the bottom of the racetrack. Tim Matthews rides in 3rd on board, though, with the Monster Energy, Gabe Mercer trucking. Number 14 of David Comstock into turn 3. He's got help from the 00 of Anthony Fredericks, who doesn't have any teammates out there. He's all alone, but he's going to help whoever he can that he thinks is going to get him to the front with a shot to go to victory lane. They're the 2 men on the high lane alone, this time by 24 laps to go. Matthews back to 3rd as Comstock starts to fall back a little bit.
It was like we said, I think that outside lane, they need 1 more. That's when they had 3. Well, they lost 1, and with just 2 drivers, you can stay there. You can hang at about P5, P6, or sometimes get up to about the 3rd spot, but very rarely would you see 2 cars on the outside make something happen, unless it's the guys 2nd and 3rd on the inside that leave the leader out to drive, but they just don't have the speed to do it on their own. Comstock, we know he knows what he's doing. The 00 is giving him a good shot on the outside of the racetrack. They need a little bit more support on the outside if they can get there, and it's coming. Look at the 13 of Dwayne Vincent pedaling up the outside, not all that far back off of the back bumper of the 00. I can bet you if you're that 54 of Tim Matthews, you're checking that outside lane and trying to figure when you want to jump out of line. And behind them, it looked like that 36 machine, Rich Jetty, jumps out to the outside, and now he gets left by both the 14 and the 00, who take his spot on the bottom.
Justin, if you're Anthony DeBarro, you're sitting there behind your teammate right now. Anthony, yes, he's a team player. He wants to help a Boomtown car win this race, but you've also got to look out for yourself on the last lap. As we get closer to the end of this race, if the outside lane gets a run and DeBarro thinks he can use it to win this race, do you think the 9 takes a shot to the outside and goes for it himself?
Oh, without a doubt, you have to do what's good for the team, and if the team's going to lose via the outside lane getting the run, he's going to try to jump up there and help the team get a win, whether it's himself or Corbin. So really, one thing you have to look out. And how about the 36 of Rich Jetty? He's been having a heck of a run, running the side draft off of that thing real hard. He's been getting a good run around the outside. He's got no drafting help up there whatsoever, but you see out of turn number 4, he's probably going to get a rocket of a run, especially because he's got that outside lane wound up, and he's got some guys coming in that outside lane just behind him, about 5 car lengths or so out of turn number 4. He's going to have a little bit of help to get up there, but we're getting ready to go for go time. Going to be 21 to go with the stripe this time by. Corbin still leads 2 wide, about 10 rows deep from about 5th, 6th on by.
Yeah, it's the top 6 single file right now, back to Anthony Fredericks. And then you've got Mike Kelly and Rich Jetty going at it as Jetty takes a surge to the outside of Fredericks and is making some tracks. He's really doing a fine job of working that side draft on his own. That's a move, Brian, that we haven't seen much today, but man, Jetty is just rolling on the outside lane and making it look easy.
Yeah, and help is on the way. There's a few cars back there behind him that are trying to get up there and make that outside line work. I just can't believe nobody at the front has done this yet. We're getting down to 20 laps to go right now. You've got to start making these moves now. You don't want to wait until the last lap because you're not going to have time to do it on the last lap. And I just cannot believe David Comstock has not been able to jump up there and make it work. Same thing with a couple of these other guys. Tim Matthews sitting up there. Chad Cole sitting up there. It's time to go. Get up there and have some fun with it.
Here's our gmercer.com, 20 to go as they work down the back straightaway. Evan, with the beds made at this point, it's go time. Who you got?
I'm going to stick with my pick at the beginning, the 13 to Wade Vincent inside the top 10 for the first time tonight. The key for him is he needs to get closer to the front of that outside lane. He is 3rd in line at the moment and might require a little bit of strategy to get around the 98 and the 36 in front, but he is very good at closing and he has got a shot at it.
Justin.
Still sticking with my pick, the 36 of Rich Jetty. He's leading that outside line, and he's certainly in contention this stage of the race.
Brian?
David Comstock. I think we're all going to go with the original picks. David's been up there all race. He's been that one guy that's been able to make the moves and try to get up there and take those chances, and he's going to get up there and he's going to take those chances and he's going to win this race.
Well, I'm going to break the streak here. I'm going to be the only one of the 4 of us in the booth that is not going to go with their original pick. I'm actually going to go from the 8 of Chad Cole up to the guy who's leading this race, the 69 of Corbin Hemstreet. I don't think that there is any... I don't think there's anybody, as I know all you guys are booing me right here. There's nobody that's going to pass that 69. I know the outside lane is rolling, but Corbin's defended that double yellow line this entire race. I don't see that changing. The inside lane is the way to victory, and Cisco Scaramuza just said the 98 of Dave Washington is going to be his pick down to the end, as we're now 18 to go, and Rich Jetty has worked his way all the way to 3rd, the defending SimVibe Daytona 250 winner, up to the back quarter panel of Anthony DeBarro. He almost made contact going down the super stretch there, gave a shot. They know he's there now, and here comes Jetty taking a peek.
And that's what's having the connection between the 2 teammates running 1 and 2 is going to do for you, is you got the 9 who's able to shut the door, and the 69 is working with him. But you can tell that Rich Jetty wanted to get to the bottom of the racetrack, because right now the outside is not working. 3 wide they go, as David Washington would find himself on a 3rd lane. He backs it off, drops back down to the 2nd lane. The outside is there, though. The 36 needs some support. We'll go 3 wide around some lap traffic down the back straightaway. Rich Jet keeping the options open, drops back down to the innermost lane, and now the spot's not there anymore. Here comes Washington.
With help from Dwayne Vincent in the Haviland Ford, as Vincent trying to make something happen, works his way up to the 6th position now. He's trying to work that outside lane and give Washington a shove towards victory lane. This is a driver that I was impressed with, picked up an RSR Full Throttle Cup Series win. I believe, Evan, it was at Michigan during last season. During the regular season, Washington came in, took the series by storm, and then kind of dropped off the face of the map for a little while. He's back ready to run for a championship. If he could win tonight, he would be in that battle for the championship.
And if Dwayne Vincent wasn't Dwayne Vincent, we wouldn't have talked about him much either tonight. Then on the 8 in the same boat, and that is back in the pack waiting. It's go time, 20 laps to go, and now those guys that have played this race to a T are showing up. And Washington gonna get to 3rd, Dwayne Vincent gonna go up to 4th. Which lane do they choose? DeBarro trying to protect the outside, he can't do it. We're gonna be side by side for 2nd, and could it be a challenge for the race lead?
This could be the first pass for the lead since lap 69, and the first time Corbin Hemstreet's lost the top spot under green flag conditions tonight. It's 15, make it 14 and a half to go. The Aegis machine of David Washington up to 3rd, battling for 2nd. He's got Rich Jetty on the outside. He's got Dwayne Vincent on the outside. Inside the Boomtown 2, or a duo alone.
Washington working that outside quarter panel of DeBarro. Rich Jetty backs it up on the break to the 13 of Dwayne Vincent. Chaos starting to break out here as we're inside of 15 laps to go. 14 left to go here at the front stripe here. And it's going to be Rich Jetty calling his way back up to the 98 of David Washington. He's right there. It's too wide for 2nd on back, and Corbin Hemstreet has to think about what he's going to do if he loses that inside draft, because it's just really DeBarro holding his back bumper, and they're doing it well. But the 54, Tim Matthews, well off, and one car below the apron. That's the 8 of Chad Cole. Don't know if he's breaking the draft there, but he was below the double yellow line.
Yeah, that was because the 36 of Rich Jetty got a hard piece of the wall off turn number 2, coming to 13 laps to go. Washington,
heavy damage on Vincent also from that.
He loses his help, and Vincent got shuffled back in that mix as well. You got to stop and consider, though, Evan, for the problems those guys just had. Dave Washington took a trip through the grass earlier tonight. He's up to 3rd.
And Washington lucky that we're on the sim because he was able to keep the splitter after that. Dwayne Vincent got into the back of Jetty, who got up into the fence, and that was heavy front end damage on the half-elite Ford Fusion. He's basically done now. That damage is dropping him back. So if you want to give me an option to change my pick, let me know. But a battle up front, it's getting crazy to the apron. There they go, up the track to 24.
That started, I think, with the 87 of Christopher Hurlow, and the caution flag flies with 12 laps to go.
And they almost avoided it, too. It was one of those long wrecks where we had guys bouncing off each other and sliding this way and that, and they were junk. There was quite a few guys tore up, but they almost made it through. And then the 24 got hooked, the 91 got hooked, and after that, you can forget about it because that's half the field.
Oh, boy. And it's Christopher Hurlow that brings the caution flag out with 12 laps to go. Just our 2nd caution of the day. And now it's going to set up a dash to the finish, Brian. I know we're going to get another look at this, but what did you see?
Well, from my perspective, the 87 was trying to stay up by the wall to let the lead cars go by. He was doing everything he was supposed to do. It looks like Rhett McBride, I don't know if he just didn't see him up there or what the deal was, or maybe he just got tight because the tires were falling off, but he just kind of ran right up into the back of him. Originally I thought it was the fault of the 87, but after going back and looking at it, I almost want to call it more of a racing deal, because I feel like the tires played a big factor in that. I feel like Rhett McBride had a hard time holding that car down coming off the corner, and he slid up into the 87, which caused the big melee.
So under caution, working with 11 and a half laps to go, be 11 to go when they get to the stripe, and now you've got a lot of guys who were hanging out at the back of the field, Evan, that are going to be beneficiaries of this, like Nick Silver, who was at the back of the draft and now moves into the top 10. But you've got a lot of guys. Oh, look at the Boomtown guys fake him out, and look at Chad Cole leading a group onto pit road here with 11 to go.
Yeah, the strategy move down to the pit lane is going to shuffle things up. So, for the most part, leaders that stay out are a handful, but the guys down pit road may have just made the move that's going to give them the upper hand in the final few laps that could win them this race.
Yeah, these guys are down on pit road here. You saw Chad Cole took 2 tires. He took 2 right side tires, and a lot of these other guys took 4 tires. I did see the number 14 of David Comstock. He slid through his pit box and had to back up. He still elected to take 4 fresh tires. I'm very surprised with that call. I actually thought they would call an audible and take 2, but he elected to go ahead and take the 4 fresh tires. And I'm going to be honest with you, as a driver, I like this call coming to pit road. I know there's only 10 laps to go. I know we're at Daytona, and you wouldn't think tires matter, but I think a car that took tires is going to win this race. I think this is the race-winning call.
So now we reset the running order and we take a look at what this is going to mean for the restart. Corbett Hemstreet did not come down pit road, staying out. Anthony DeBarro, he also did not come down pit side. Jose Gonzalez, Tim Matthews, David Washington, amongst the drivers that stay out. The tires are going to help them. We talk about a log jam, though. It's no question that Daytona, it's a pretty wide racetrack, not when you're doing 205 miles an hour. This restart is going to bring us inside of the final 10 laps of this race. We get 2 very short stints and 2 very quick caution flags. Those guys back there on the fresh tires might end up being the causes for the yellow, because they know that they can't hang around and set much up. They're just going to have to go for it, and I think that you're going to see Hemstreet and Navarro do what they've been doing, and that is just try to protect that front lane of the racetrack. But I think it's very hard to predict what's going to happen, because you're not going to see a lot of take anymore.
Well, no, you're not, and that's the key here, closing in. But Hemstreet hold on and win this race.
It's going to be very interesting. I don't personally think that he will win this race just because those guys are on fresh tires. I really think they are going to come through this field. If this thing stays green, I think you're going to see them come through the field and be the guys to beat. If it doesn't stay green, then yes, I think Hemstreet's going to be in the best spot in the house. But there's a lot of guys back there that want to win this race, and his teammate's going to have to figure out how to get to the bottom. They're going to have to time this restart and get him clear to the bottom so they can line up and stay back to back on this next restart here. It's going to be very interesting to see how they work that out.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the strategy comes into play now. So we get ready to go, and it's we talk about teammates with Hemstreet and DeBarro. Look at the Aegis teammates, though, between Dave Washington, who's up there. You got the 45 of Shed, who's up there. This is about to get very, very interesting. And Daniel Eberhardt as well in the 90 is not a true teammate, but one that has worked with those guys before and could make it very, very interesting in the closing laps. So I think we're about to see exactly how far team alliances are going to go here in the closing stages of the SimVibe Daytona 250. Under caution for just the second time tonight after a 13-car pileup sparked by contact between Christopher Hurlow and Rhett McBride has really kind of decimated the field here and sets us up for a barn burner of a finish. It's going to be 8 laps to go when we get the green flag, and all cautions from this point on, Brian, as you know from having driven here before, will be immediately reviewed after this race, and this is about to get good. That's what I know.
Yeah, well, I was just listening in on the admin channel, and what they have said is that the 2 cautions that have happened thus far, no driver claimed the caution. Here in RSR, they give the drivers an opportunity to take responsibility for the caution instead of forcing the admins to go back and determine who is at fault. And through both of those cautions, no driver took fault, so they have to go back and review both of those cautions. The first one that involved the race leaders, and then this one here that involved most of the back half of the field. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. But we're getting down to 10 laps to go. This is going to get crazy. We've seen a lot of single file racing up to this point, but now you don't have time for that. 10 laps to go when they go back green, you have to make your moves, and you have to make them right now. And I'm really excited to see what these guys on fresh tires do. I still believe that somebody that took fresh tires is going to be the one that comes out on victory lane, or comes out and goes to victory lane here tonight if this thing stays green. The tires are going to make such a big difference. They're going to be able to hold it full throttle. The rest of these guys up front, they're going to have to lift and try to keep that car on the bottom, and it's just going to make for a very interesting last stretch here.
8 laps to go, 20 miles when we get the green flag. The American Childhood Cancer Organization Ford GT Mustang pace car going to ease its way back onto pit road, and that American Ethanol green flag is going to be a welcome sight. The SimVibe Daytona 250 into its closing stages. Corbin Hemstreet and Anthony DeBarro go to the American Ethanol green flag. We are back underway. They tried to time the restart. The problem is, I thought it wasn't going to work, but Anthony DeBarro barely made a hole in front of the 98 of David Washington. Top 7, top 8 go single file. Chad Cole, one of the guys with at least 2 fresh Goodyear Virtual Racing Eagles, and latches on to the back of this draft. He's got Nelson Rivera ahead of him. We're off 2 and onto the super stretch.
We talk about these guys single filing out. Well, that's why that worked up in front of the field. Wasn't the best between the 69 and the 9, but everybody else took so long to get going that they had the time to orchestrate that. We're single file inside of the top 8 to the outside of the racetrack in turn 3. Here comes Chad Cole trying to win in Daytona. He'll have a push from behind by the 14 of Comstock.
Yeah, I told you, Chad Cole knows how to win this race. He's done it before. He's going to have a shot here. He's got help from Comstock. They're tandemed up on the outside lane, trying to make something happen. Chad Cole not able to work around the 45 of Carl Shedd. Back to 1 and 2. And they exit turn 2, head for the super stretch, and it's 7 cars in a line.
7 cars, all single file for the moment. 3 wide, though, for Ford. It's going to be the 45 of Carl Shedd in the middle lane. 98 of David Washington going to jump up to that middle lane. Matthews on the bottom. Chad Cole, David Comstock go right in the Dale Senior line. Trouble! 1 car almost, but how did they save that? The 8 of Chad Cole up in the wall, almost spun it around. It's still 3 wide for 3rd in the front straightaway.
Oh, 3 wide in the tri-oval's going to get really dicey, and now Cole's latched onto the back deck lid of David Washington. Anthony DeBarro swings, now goes back to the bottom. DeBarro's trying to take it away from his teammate, but that goes
Oh, contact, there goes the 8.
There it goes, Chad Cole, Tim Matthews in trouble. Big
That's the whole
crash
field
behind the race leaders. That's most of the field. The only 3 that got through that without any major incident were Hemstreet, DeBarro, and Washington.
Yeah, those 3 drivers that get away, the 69, the 9, and the 98, and that's about it. A spectacular save in 3 and 4, all for nothing. Chad Cole was in the right spot, and just the movement up the racetrack by Carl Shedd on the bottom, comes up, turns the 8 around, and that's not going to work. And that was a violent wreck for the 54 and the 8. And then after that, we saw Comstock spin back down the hill, and that's about 12 drivers that we were talking about in the last 20-25 laps about the guys that watch in the end of this race, and now they're all junked as well. That's back-to-back big ones, all within inside of the final 20 laps.
And now we set up for, Brian, a 1-lap dash.
Yeah, and with only 3 cars clean, from what it looks like, it's going to basically come down to Corbin Hemstreet and Anthony DeBarro. Does Anthony DeBarro sit behind Corbin and not take any chances, or does he go for it? I know if I'm in his shoes, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try to win this race. I'm not going to do anything stupid that's going to take the win away from both of us, but I'm going to try to win it for myself.
Does he get help from the 98 of David Washington if he decides to go, Justin?
I highly doubt it. I think David's going to try to make it 3 wide for the victory and do whatever he's got to do because, you know, if incident were to start unfolding between the top 3, you know, it's anybody's guess what would happen, and the first guy that makes it to the stripe is probably going to be the guy that's going to be declared the winner in all of this, although there aren't incidents under review. So if you're Anthony DeBarro, do you play it safe and see if Corbin Hemstreet's going to get a penalty point and then get moved back to the end of the longest line at the end of the race here and you be declared the winner? Or do you try to go for it and eliminate that chance whatsoever?
That's going to be the question because, I mean, it's hard to gamble on something like that. Again, Hemstreet involved in an accident earlier in which nobody claimed if he is deemed the car to be responsible for that yellow, he would get that EOL penalty. So for the 9, you finish second, you gamble on that, but I don't think you can take that risk. If you go for the lead, though, and risk getting into an accident with the 69, you'd hate to find out after the race that he does get that black flag, but I think, Brian, you can't rely on the finishing order based on penalties.
No, absolutely not. You have to go out there with the assumption that what you see at the front of the field is what's going to be the end result. You can't be Anthony DeBarro and say, I'm going to ride behind Corbin and hope that he gets penalized and gets knocked to the end of the field. You have to go out there and try to win the race. And if you don't win, then you hope that is what happens. But you can't race like that. You have to have the mentality of, I'm going to try to be the first car to the checkered flag. And I think that's what you're going to see. From what I can tell, the front three are the only three that made it through that wreck cleanly. I look back through the field, and the only car I see back there that might be okay is Nelson Rivera in the 7, but he's behind 2 damaged race cars, so he's not really going to be a factor. He's going to have a hard time getting by those guys in this one-lap dash and then still put himself in a position to win the race. So I really think this is a 3-car race for the victory, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, we're going to patch our trackside communication right here and actually get a word with our LSRTV colleague and right now crew chief for the 98 of Dave Washington, Andy Kessler. Andy, boy, the booth up here just went nuts when all that broke out behind your driver. What's the strategy to get Dave Washington to victory lane here? Because there's not a lot of friends left to be able to push him.
No, there absolutely isn't. We were working well with the 8 right there, and I thought that was probably our best shot. We had Carl Shed there also, but those guys were involved in that wreck, so we're not looking too good as far as partners or any help here, but we're going to have to hope we can do something here to break these 2 Boomtown guys up. If we can't, then it's going to be tough, and we're going to be fighting for that 3rd spot.
Can you go 3 wide to try and steal it away?
Of course we will. This is Daytona, race number 1, and we're going to go for it. We made it up here to the front on a good call by staying out when we lost the draft, so we're going to go for it any way we can, but we'll be happy anywhere as long as we don't wreck.
We'll let you get to it, get back with your driver here, but definitely best of luck.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right.
The lights on the pace car, we expect them to go off this time by, and if they do so, it is going to be a 1-lap dash to the checkered flag with no yellows, assuming we take the green flag across the start-finish line, and we're looking like we're going to have about 14 rows of cars or so, 23 drivers right now, still on the lead lap, couple of guys, a few laps down that are still out there just trying to get to the finish in this one, in a 1-lap shootout. We talk about being in these races, going into the final 5 laps, and we say that without the overtime, without a green-white checker, you can't wait to the last lap to make a move. As the leader, you feel somewhat comfortable in the fact that if a yellow flies, you could win it under the yellow. I'm sure Corbin Hemstreet would not object to that, but that's not going to be the case here tonight. Again, with no yellows coming on that white flag lap, anything can happen. And again, they're just going to be getting up to speed by the time they get off of quarter number 2 and into 3 and 4. So the draft is going to be completely different than what it would be as well if we were on the middle of a green flag stretch. They'll just be getting up to about 200 miles an hour when they come off of turn number 4. You're not going to be able to suck up to somebody and push them as well as you would like. So the restart could be key. And with the 69 and the 9 holding that front row, if they execute, they can put themselves in a very good spot.
Evan, last night on LSRTV during the Ascourse Pro Geek Consulting Cup Series event, we saw contact between teammates exiting turn 4 for the race win. Do we see that here?
I want to say yes. We brought this up earlier. Brian seems to think that these guys are going to stay faithful to each other. They're side by side. If they don't get single file in line with each other, that 9's going to shove that 69 all the way down to the grass on the inside of the corner. He's not going to give him any space. If they single file out like they have the last couple of restarts, I don't think that 9's going to try and move. But if that 9 stays next to him and they're side by side, he's not going to lift for him at all. It's on.
I don't see a lot of damage on the 00 of Anthony Fredericks either, the AT&T machine. He might have a decent shot at this. I see about 5 cars, Hemstreet, DeBarro, Washington, Fredericks, and Rivera, maybe Kevin Linden as well on that outside lane. Look to be clean to me. We're about to find out exactly who's got what speed, though, as we work through the 31-degree banks in turns 3 and 4. The pace car, once it exits off turn 4, is going to ease onto pit road for the final time, because once that green and white go in the air together, we race it all the way back. Pace car going to head left for the final time. Hemstreet versus DeBarro on the front row. Who's it going to be? Pace car is officially gone. American Ethanol green flag in the air, green and white together, 1-lap dash to the finish.
and they made it across the start-finish line. So that was the first step, is get the restart underway. We're 3 wide, and guys diving off of the racing surface back outside of the top 10. There is a huge checkup behind the number 1 is Sean Casto. It is leaving the leaders to break away. Single file, 3 cars. Himstreet, DeBarro, and Washington down the Daytona super stretch for the final time. Does DeBarro make a move?
He's going to have to wait till he gets off turn 4 right here if he's going to make a move down to turn number 3. Here he goes to the outside lane. Washington goes with him, but goes even higher. I don't know if he's going to have the momentum. Here it comes, trying to suck up, coming off turn number 4 for the final time. Himstreet's there. DeBarro swings out. Himstreet blocks. Coming to be side by side all the way to the line. Here it comes.
Not enough.
Himstreet wins at Daytona. 13 1/1000ths of a second as they wreck behind him.
And that pack that got checked up, they meleeed across the start-finish line, but it was the top 3 breakaway that kind of left David Washington in a spectator spot. He didn't have much of a chance. DeBarro made the move to the outside. He came up about 3 feet short of taking a checkered flag, and Corbin Himstreet held that double yellow line on the bottom of the racetrack to take the W, holding on by 1/100th of a second. Sound familiar? We talked about that earlier.
That would be 5.5 inches, Justin. If we're doing the math, okay, 9.5 minutes. It's close enough, Justin. I know this much: 13 1/1000ths of a second. It is about as close as it can get, and that's about what we could have asked for on a 1-lap dash. And DeBarro gave it everything he had right there.
He gave everything, but he gave something to his teammate there in 3 and 4, spun Corbin Himstreet around. Don't know if that means anything, but we'll catch up with all of that in the post-race show. But, you know, DeBarro, to his credit, he did everything that was asked of him as a teammate. He blocked the advancing draft when he could, and he tried to defend Corbin's lead as best he possibly could. And then, you know, it was pretty much all bets are off out of turn number 4, and he almost got him. He just needed a little bit more of a side draft to pinch Corbin down, and Corbin, to his credit, did the opposite of Martin Truex Jr. yesterday and kind of took him up the racetrack a little bit, and that's what Corbin needed to win the SimVibe Daytona 250.
What a finish, and we're going to hear from both of our top 2 as well as the other big players in just a few minutes as the celebration is on for Corbin Himstreet, the winner of the Daytona 250. We hear from him coming up in just a few moments. Right now, though, these words on LSRTV, back for the Gary Mercer Trucking Post-Race Show right after this from Daytona International Speedway. You're watching Live Sim Racing TV.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks and terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
iRacing.com is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all over the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics and engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. iRacing's web-based interface allows members to compare stats and test drive any combination of car and track instantly. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 60,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsport organizations like SRO Motorsports Group to deliver virtual races based on the real-life Blancpain GT series. iRacing's Blancpain Endurance Series features team racing, giving members the ability to build a team and participate in races ranging from 3 hours to 24 hours. Additional partners include NASCAR, IMSA, V8 Supercars, IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own 24 hours of Spa, Bathurst 1000, Daytona 500, and many more. iRacing.com, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car.
We're back live at the Daytona International Speedway for the LSRTV post-race show as the SimVibe Daytona 250 in the books, and we're officially rocking and rolling for the 2016 RSR Full Throttle Cup Series. Race control still waiting to make tonight's race official, so in the meantime, let's take a look at tonight's unofficial race results from round number 1. Corbin Hemstreet right now being shown as tonight's big winner by just 13/100ths of a second. And for the teammate Anthony DeBarro, David Washington in the number 3 spot, P4 Kevin Linden, and Sean Casto as well coming home inside of the top 5. Bobby Terrell 6th, 7th with Anthony Fredericks, Brendan Mercer in 8th, 9th Ross Cato, Kyle Tarasco rounding out your top 10. And from there on back, it's where things got interested across the start-finish line.
11th will be the 5 at Dan Murray, the 7 at Nelson Rivera finishes 12th. 13th goes to the 84 at Jimmy North. The 43 at Doug Roth will finish 15th. 14th. 15th goes to the 25 at Joseph Dice. 36 Rich Jetty finishes 16th. 17th to the 24 Thomas George. 15 to Scott Simley will finish 18th. 19th to the 80 of Mike Kelly. The 46 of Mark Bratcher will round out the top 20.
Daniel Eberhardt will be in the 21st position, and he is the last driver that finished on the lead lap here tonight. The rest of these drivers finished at least 1 lap down, and in many cases, many more laps down than that. Greg Evans finishes 22nd. Scott Eckrich finishes 23rd. CJ LeVere is 24th. Matt Lacrosse, 25th. Adam Blattel is 26th. Brian Harvey is 27th. My pick for tonight's victory, he did not get the job done. David Comstock is 28th. Carl Shedd is 29th. And the pole sitter for tonight's race, he ends up 30th after being caught up in one of those late race crashes.
31st, Dwayne Vincent wasn't able to make it all the way through the end of this one. 32nd, Stanford Marinac. Chad Cole had a shot, 33rd. Nick Silver, 34th and 35th. The Jose Gonzalez. Steve Gottschalk, 36th. 37th, Brett McBride. Metrolo back in 38th. 39th was Christopher Hurlow. And rounding out the field, Nicholas Cohan, Jonathan Cadell, and Justin Michael through the field of 42, Jacob.
Yeah, and I've just headed down to pit road, just at the gates of Victory Lane, and the admin crew has met, and I'm now standing by with Brennan Mercer, who heads up the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series. Brennan, I know this immediately went to review after the checkered flag, and we're going to get the official word on results from you now. What can you tell us?
Well, the way that it works, our system works, is that when you cause a caution, we deem at the end of the longest line. It's usually self-claim. It is self-claim procedure, and it is that case. 69 caused the caution on lap 66, I believe it is. He did not claim it, so therefore he gets an end of the longest line penalty.
Which will, by virtue, put the win in the hands of the Navarro under the official results here, guys. And I'm going to throw it up to the other end of pit road now, and we're going to start our podium celebrations here in a moment. But Brennan, thanks for the explanation, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Atlanta.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, to the other end of pit road, Brian Macklin. Let's start with the official top three and go to you with the 48. How about a Lowe's Chevrolet and a very happy Kevin Linden?
Yeah, I've caught up with third place finisher tonight, Kevin Linden, driver of the number 48 Lowe's Chevrolet. And Kevin, it's amazing to say that you have done. Hey, welcome, Kevin. We had a little bit of technical difficulty. Kevin, you finished third here tonight. A wild race. We saw 68 laps of green flag racing kick off the start of this race, and then a handful of cautions towards the end. Talk about your race and what helped you get to a top three finish here tonight. You had an incredible race, and you ended up with a good finish.
Well, I finished in the top three. Oh, what happened to? Because then I finished fourth.
There was a race control situation where the win was taken away from Corbin Hemstreet due to the first caution. So yes, you finished top three. Congratulations!
Oh, wow.
I'm glad we get to surprise you with that.
Well, I started 30th, way back there in no man's land, and thought, I'd be patient, not kind of bide my time. And on the first pit stop, I made a little ground, but not much. But on the second pit stop, we pitted early, and then the next lap, the caution came out, and I jumped from 30th all the way up to 13th. So that kind of really turned the race and gave me the track position I was really looking for.
Well, we congratulate you on that. Looking ahead to the 2016 season, what are your plans here in RSR for the Full Throttle Cup Series? Do we expect to see you running full time, or is it going to be a part-time schedule? What's your plans for 2016?
Oh no, this is going to be a full-time schedule, and we actually hope to maybe win a couple of races this year compared to, well, we won one last year, so we'll hope to win more than one this year and make it to the chase.
And that's the ultimate goal, trying to make the chase and have a chance to win that championship. And looking ahead next week, we're going to Atlanta Motor Speedway. What are your thoughts heading to that track? How do you feel about your chances going to Atlanta?
With the new tire build, it's going to be interesting because there was a lot of tire wear tonight, so I'm a little scary about the tire wear aspect in Atlanta. But I love the track. I really like running there, and I think we should be able to run pretty good there, I think, because we have a lot of good long run speed.
Well, hopefully you can put together another solid run. Before we let you go, just want to give you an opportunity to say thank you to your sponsors and say hello to any friends or family at home that might be watching. Who makes it happen for you on the 48 car?
Oh, I want to give a shout out to my wife for letting me do this, and I want to shout out to my new teammates at Turn 1 Heroes Racing I was on a team last year, signed over to them this year, and so far things are going very good with them.
All right, well, congratulations on your third place finish. I'm glad we got to surprise you with that when we pulled you up here into the interview. Good luck next week at Atlanta, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Thanks, you guys, and thanks for all the hard work, and a big shout out for RSR for putting on this great series.
Thank you, Kevin. That was your third place finisher, driver the number 48 Lowe's Chevrolet, Kevin Linden. And now, Jacob, I believe you've caught up with a driver that's a little dejected after the official results that were released. You've caught up with Corbin Hemstreet.
Yeah, headed down to the far end of pit road, and Fox kind of fell silent after this one, Corbin. It's the photo finish that ultimately is never really going to be in the record book, and I know you're are understandably disappointed right now, but talk about the last 40 laps or so from your point of view, and the last lap, even though it doesn't get scored the way you want it to, it was still one whale of a show with your teammate.
Oh yeah, and either way, a Boomtown Sim car wins it, so we're super psyched. We came in here with one goal, and that's to get one Boomtown car in victory lane and in the chase, and I think we did that. So that's what's most important. We led a ton of laps today. Got the Cat cars out front. Cat Finning had a great showing for them. I think we got the most laps led there. It's just a shame that we got net coded there. I mean, it was pretty obvious we weren't going to touch, but there was net code, and it wasn't a bad net code. So in the rule book, it was my caution to claim. So fair ruling on the admin. It's just a really crappy situation. But we'll take it. Anthony's in the show, and all we need to do is get us a win to get us back in. So all in all, I'd say it's a successful Daytona Speed Weeks.
Corbin, you guys were so strong working together all night long, and even when you didn't have any help really behind Anthony on the bottom lane of the racetrack, it just looked like you guys could power away on that bottom lane at will. I mean, what was it that you guys had that made you so much better working as a team than everybody else that was trying to stop you all night?
Well, to be honest, the track was way, way, way too rubbered up. You couldn't get an outside lane going, which is a shame. Anybody watching LSRTV knows last night we had a great race side by side all the way, but we just couldn't do it with this much rubber. So we just sat in a line, controlled the bottom, and nobody could really pass us.
Going forward, you look to start gaining points at the Atlanta Motor Speedway next week. You had some good results on intermediate 1.5-mile tracks a year ago. That's where the charge starts to try and win a race and get into the chase. How confident are you, not just in your own performance, but in this whole team going into the rest of 2016?
I wish we could say we're taking a shot at it in Atlanta and Las Vegas, but I'll be actually in Vegas, so I'll be sitting out for those two races. So we'll be back round 4. I think it's Phoenix or something like that. We'll come back strong. I don't have. I'm not too worried about making the chase at this point. We got a lot of time to get in victory lane. I think we can do it.
I know you can't do it by yourself, and you mentioned there's some new colors on board this year. Who are the sponsors and shout-outs you need to give people you need to thank?
Well, first of all, I got to thank Anthony. He got the win, but if I had been given the win, would have been because of him. And then huge shout out to Jared Como, spotted me all the way through Speed Weeks. Again, a very successful Speed Weeks. We won our duel too. And then Kat Finning came on board big time, me and Anthony's cars. And then obviously you got to thank everybody at Boomtown Sim, Race Chaser Online. Just tons of work goes into these Boomtown cars every week, and man, we're ready to make some noise this year, and I think it's coming. Obviously, thanks to LSRTV and RSR for putting this on, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
There's a well-deserved smile because the team car goes to victory lane, Corbin. We'll see you here at Phoenix.
Thanks, buddy.
That's Corbin Himstreet. I know it's not the result he wanted, but for a result that was arguably a solid one for a rookie in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, Evan Pasoko. Let's go to our runner-up finisher now, your trackside with Dave Washington.
And he was the third car in line up in the front of the field, and he'll find himself with a P2 at the end of the evening, caught up on the pit lane with the driver of the 98, David Washington. David got into the picture there late at the right time. The restart really didn't work out all that well for you, though, because you were in a good spot running inside the top 5, but the top 3 drivers broke away. You found yourself behind Himstreet and Nabarro, and really couldn't do a whole lot with him there. Talk us through that last lap.
Yeah, really it was. Look, the cars behind me. From my spotter's view, he said he had the nose miss, and I knew I was in trouble when that happened. So I just tried to time the restart perfect and try to stay with them in case somebody else tried to sneak up and, try to go for that win.
You saw a race here on LSRTV last night, same setup, and tonight the same setup as well, but a little bit different track conditions that a lot of the drivers are saying made it a very difficult race to make a second lane a thing. There was a lot of rubber, in fact, 100% rubber put down on the racetrack. You went 14th to 3rd, though. You had a pretty solid night overall. What were some of the biggest challenges, though, you guys had to fight through in this season opener to be in the conversation late, not to mention avoiding 2 big accidents there?
Yeah, I think that the first incident there when they had the accident in front of us and the 7 car was not quite clear and caught my left rear and sent me through the grass. I think that's the save all right there for me. It kind of put me back, and then that caution came out perfect, and then just tried to stay out and get up front. Started working the outside line after I saw Dwayne there going to the outside a bunch of times from me, and I figured I'd just start working it and try to get past the 2 up front, and it was rolling pretty good.
Everybody wants to win Daytona, but if you can walk away with the P2 in the season opener and get some points in the back pocket right away, then I'm sure you're going to take that. What's the objective now going forward as we hit some of the regular tracks, quote-unquote? We'll be in Atlanta next Monday night for round 2, and that's when we really get down to business.
Yeah, basically it just puts us in the suitable tracks for us and our kind of driving style. as everybody knows, the plate tracks are just the luck of the draw and where you finish at. Teammates do help, by all means. We tried to keep our team together tonight, and it just didn't happen.
Solid finish nonetheless. David Washington coming home P2. Sir, any other sponsors or shout outs you want to give a call to before we let you go?
Yeah, definitely. First and foremost, you guys for broadcasting this and RSR for putting it on. I'd like to thank Aegis, Taurus Mechanical, new sponsor came on board. Like to definitely thank Joseph Carl. We've been working hard in the off season. My spotter Andy, all the guys over there at Noble that help us each and every week. Just put down practice lap after practice lap.
All right, David. Well, thanks for sticking around and chatting with us. Congratulations, P2 tonight at Daytona. Best of luck. We'll see you in Atlanta next Monday.
Thank you.
So he came across the line in third. He walks away with a second-place finish. And the driver that crossed the line in second going to walk away with the checkered flag down to victory lane. And Justin Rose now caught up with Anthony DeBarro.
Down here in the Gatorade victory lane alongside the driver of the other fitting cat entry, Anthony DeBarro. It's something that you've, I know it's strange to you to experience it like this, but I know you got to be happy that one of the two Boomtown cars did get a victory.
Yeah, first off, I want to say to Corbin, I mean, I hate taking wins this way. He definitely had the car to beat, and he was out front the whole race, led the most laps, but, stuff happens, and I'm just glad one of us was able to end up in victory lane. I don't like winning like this, but we'll take it.
Now knowing that you've got, the rest of the races to get through before getting into the chase season, are you going to take the time to experiment? Are you going to go out and be just as aggressive? Or is it really going to be more team focused to kind of pay the favor back, so to speak? I know this is not Corbin trying to pay you a favor to win the race, but is it something that, you're going to try to do everything you can do to put another Boomtown car into the chase?
Well, I mean, the mentality I really go into every race in is just go in, try and have a shot at winning the race, and thinking you have the speed to win the race, and that's what's got us here to this point where we're ending up pretty good results, and we had a good showing in the chase. I know it didn't end up like we wanted, but I'm just gonna keep doing what we've been doing, keep grinding it out, and see where we end up, how many wins we could pick up, and where we end up in the chase seating.
We have a new build coming here, the new aero package going to be slapped on these cars. A lot less downforce than what you've been used to running in these Cup cars. What's the outlook on this season as we go forth and you lose a lot of downforce? Can you gather it back up and be able to put yourself in victory lane on a consistent basis? Or is it really going to be something that, you're going to struggle to find for a few weeks until you figure it out?
No, for my driving style, the looser it gets, the harder to drive, the better. I mean, I wish they would just take the spoilers flat off the cars and get rid of the splitters, and I would be in good shape.
Strong words from you, Anthony. You can't do it by yourself. You said yourself this is not the way you want to win, but you won nonetheless. Who's responsible for putting you in victory lane here tonight?
I'd like to thank my sponsor, Finning Caterpillar. Without them, this wouldn't be possible, and also Boomtown Sim. I mean, obviously, I can't thank them enough. And Mitch, Chris, Jared, and Corbin. Also, they're great. You guys in the booth at LSRTV. Laura, we're thinking about you. This one's for you. I know it was a little controversy there at the end, but this one's dedicated to you. I'm sure Corbin, if he got the win, he would have done the same. And Real Sim Racing, what can I say about them? They do a great job running this series for us.
And that's the driver who will win the SimVibe Daytona 250, Anthony DeBarro. Anthony, congratulations on the win. We'll look forward to seeing more from you during the year. But Jacob, it's a wild finish, and it got even wilder post-race. What's your final thoughts for the evening?
Oh boy. I mean, what can you say? Boomtown Sim is here to play in 2016, and it's going to be an impressive drive for them, I think, as they chase a championship that got away just a little bit one season ago. Props, though, to a couple of guys. Kevin Linden, who finishes third, and Brennan Mercer finishing seventh after he started 40th tonight. We talked to him as an admin on pit road, but he had a great run himself tonight in the gmercer.com, Gary Mercer Trucking Chevrolet. So a lot of good storylines. Ross Cato, the outside pulse, a top 10, and the carnage that we saw at the tail end as well. A lot of things that are going to leave some people with some holes to dig out of, Chad Cole notably being one of them, and some guys that get off to a really good start like Anthony DeBarro. So we're just going to have to go on here in 1 week's time to the Atlanta Motor Speedway as we roll forward and get ready to continue a 200-miler on tap in the Peach State next weekend, and next Monday night rather, and we look forward to that right here, 9:30 p.m. Eastern on LSRTV. We hope you will join us for that. Right now, though, for my broadcast partners tonight, Evan Pasoko, Justin Rosenau, Brian Macklin in the broadcast booth, Cisco Scaramouza down in the production trailer, John Abbott, Brennan Mercer, Steve Herring, and all the folks at Real Sim Racing that helped make this show possible. I'm Jacob Seelman, reminding all you sim racing fans, keep it off the wall until we meet again, and we will see you next time right here on the web. Congratulations go out to Anthony DeBarro, the winner of the SimVibe Daytona 250. We'll see you next week in Hotlanta. Good night.